Everyone, hope everybody is having an amazing day. Welcome to the second video of the Cruise Diaries. Today I just wanted to do a little bit of a talk through of my last contract, what ports we visited. If I can get it figured out, I will add some photos in just because I didn't take too many photos and too many videos, and a lot of the videos I did take I deleted off of my phone for space, and also didn't film them this way because I didn't really know that I was going to be starting a YouTube channel. So with that being said, my last contract I was on Explorer of the Seas. My first contract I was on Freedom of the Seas. They're basically the same ship. Freedom is a little bit larger by one fire zone, so that's just a little bit of the length. But other than that, they were the same ship, but very different itineraries. So on this contract, we were in Miami for about 2 months. Then they flew us over to Cadiz, Spain, where we boarded the ship coming out of dry dock. Then we did a transatlantic crossing, stopping only in Gibraltar before we got back to Miami. Then we were out of Miami and we were doing the ABC Islands and a couple of other places in the Caribbean for a month or two, and then we did a transatlantic cross all the way back over. We hit a couple of different ports that we don't normally go to. A lot of them we only went to once. I probably won't touch on those too much because my next contract will be over back in that area, and it'll be going to a lot of those ports that I've only been to once, like Barcelona and Rome, a couple of other places. But the main ports that we did go to this contract, I am going to have to read it off a list because it is quite a few. We did Ravenna, Italy was our home port, Split, Croatia, Dubrovnik, Croatia, Kotor, Montenegro, Corfu, Greece, Athens, Mykonos, Santorini, and Argostoli. So I think we can just get into it. So first up is Ravenna, Italy. That was our home port for most of the contract. I have a lot of love for Ravenna. They say Venice, but Venice is really about an hour and a half away from Ravenna. It's a cute little like fisherman's town. It's kind of sleepy, but I really love the people there. Everyone that we met was so kind. We had two cafes that we kind of regularly went to. There was a trattoria that had amazing homemade pasta, and we made friends with the owner. His name was Led. So we would always go there. There's a beach there where you can kind of spend some time, and then there was an amazing gelato place. It was called Sloppy Gelato. If I was getting off in Ravenna, you knew for sure that I was going to Sloppy Gelato that day. There really isn't too much to do, but there is a little grocery store co-op there that you can go get your goods and whatever you need for the cruise. Kind of just a cute little walk around and relax day. There is a bus into the actual city of Ravenna, but because we were there on Sundays, most of the stores weren't open, so a lot of us just skipped out on it. There's a €1 ferry that you could take from the ship over to this little fisher town. You could walk to the beach, you could walk to some shops. Like it was very easy, very, very chill. So with that being said, I think I'm going to move on to the next one because while Ravenna was very nice and very sweet and very beautiful, there really wasn't too much to do day to day, and I kind of want to get into the ports where there's a little bit more fun going on. So the next one I'll talk about is Split, Croatia. This was one of the ports that we went to in Croatia, and it was beautiful. Split, you dock right at the port, and then it's like a 10-minute walk into the city. It's not too bad. When it's hot, it is kind of like a ooh, okay, we're going. But once you're in the city, it's really, really nice. The architecture of the old town is very, very beautiful. You could easily walk around, just kind of get lost going in and out of the shops. There's a lot of different things, tons of restaurants, boutiques for clothes, some tourist shops if you want to get your tchotchkes. They also have lots of gelato, lots of coffee. It's funny because when you think of pizza, you think of Italy or America, but actually Croatia had some of the best pizza, maybe second to Naples, but I did really enjoy that there. There was a day in Split that was probably my favorite day. We did a hike, so we walked from the ship all the way through the old town, went a little bit past, and then there's a ton of stairs. You will really be sweating. A ton of stairs that go all the way up this mountain. There's a couple of churches that you can see. There's a giant flag that you can go see. We kind of skipped out on that and we just kept walking all the way down. And we walked down the side of the mountain and down. And then you get to the spot where there's a beach. I can't remember the name of the beach because we didn't stay there. We really wanted to go cliff jumping. So we found this little pebble beach off to the side, and my friends and I went cliff jumping and swimming, and it was so much fun. We ended up walking about, I think, over 10 miles that day with the hike. We didn't end up hiking back from where that beach was and where the cliff jumping was. You could easily just get an Uber to get back into the city, which is exactly what we did. And then we stopped for lunch. I wanted some ice cream and I needed a water. But that was an amazing day. And if you do like kind of more of an adventure-y kind of day, if you are in Split, that's definitely something that I would recommend. Next, we can get into Dubrovnik. Again, another beautiful, beautiful city. The old town city was absolutely stunning. It was built up by walls that like encased the seaside. You do have to take an Uber or a taxi to get to the old town. I did walk to it once. It took me over 40 minutes to get there. It was very beautiful. It was a very beautiful walk. It was super, super scenic. But it did take a long time, and we didn't have a ton of time in that port. I think it was 8 a.m. to 2 or something like that. So when you have such a limited amount of time, you don't really want to waste it just walking to where you want to get to. Once you're in the old city walls in Dubrovnik, there are a ton of shops, a ton of restaurants, there's a ton of things to do. There's a lot of fruit stands around, and you can buy lavender and a lot of other things in the area. I did have a favorite restaurant that I liked to go to that was right outside, so I would walk through the city walls all the way down to the other side where you exit the walls, and then there is a little restaurant that is on kind of the seaside where a lot of boats will dock, so it's a very beautiful view, and the food was amazing. I'll try to insert a video just so that you guys can see what I'm talking about. Another fun thing to do in Dubrovnik was cliff jumping. I ended up not going, but there is a very famous bar in the old city where it literally just looks like a hole in the wall of the city walls that you walk through. You go down. I did visit it once. I took some pictures, so I can put some pictures in here as well of just, it's a little bar and then it's off some cliffs. There's some little stairs that you can take down, and you can either go to cliff jumping or you can just swim straight into the water. I do go back to Dubrovnik, so I would love to do that. At the time I was alone and I didn't really want to risk swimming or cliff jumping without anyone there in case something happened. Another thing to do in Dubrovnik that I didn't get the chance to do, I kind of chickened out just because I didn't want to get injured before my contract was over and then me put my cast at risk, is bungee jumping. There is a bridge where you can go bungee jumping over the side of the bridge, and I know a couple of crew members who did it and absolutely loved it. I had hyped myself up for it for a long time, but then I had a chat with my dance captain and she was like, look, if you get injured, like, you do have to know that this is what's going to happen. And I was like, it's not worth it. It's not worth it to do. So maybe one day I'll get there, but at the moment, probably not. So I think that kind of concludes Croatia. It's a beautiful city. I really look forward to taking some videos for you guys for next time, just so that you guys can see a little bit of what I'm talking about. Okay, so the next place that I went to is probably one of my favorite ports that we went to, not for having a ton of stuff to do or anything other than it was Kotor, Montenegro, and the cats. Oh my gosh, that city is run with the sweetest little cats you'll ever meet. So, Kotor is a tender port, so you would get off the ship onto a tender boat, and then it would drive you to another little port where you could get off. You could walk out, and not even 5 minutes later, you could be in the old town city. So there is a lot of shopping in that little old town area. We actually made friends with one of the shop owners over there. His name was Armand. He was amazing. I bought some beautiful bags from him. But there is a lot to do in that area. There's some good pizza. There's a little restaurant that we loved. I always got this really yummy, like melty, cheesy chicken wrap. But there is some other stuff in that area. But the thing that drew me to Kotor was the cats. So in this little city, you can kind of walk through it, and again, you can easily get lost. There's so many twists and turns, and you're just seeing tons and tons of things that you're like, whoa, where am I? What's going on? But it's not the bad kind of lost. It's like it's taking it all in. So in one of these little nooks, there is a bunch of little homes with a little grass turf set up and some food and stuff, and it's where all of the cats of the city live. So these cats don't actually have a home per se. The old city is their home, but the shop owners come together and take care of them, leave them water. If one of them is super sick, they'll take them to the vet, kind of a thing. But these babies are socialized from the time that they are born with all of the tourism and the shop owners and everything. I swear I didn't meet a mean cat the entire time that we were in Kotor. I'll insert a photo. I met this little kitten and I was obsessed with him. He latched onto me, climbed up on me. A couple of them fell asleep on me. Um, and I just wanted to take him home. And I think it was so special to me because on the ship, you can't really have animals, especially not for crew members. That's not really a thing. So I have always grown up with pets. I grew up with dogs, but I do have lived around cats, so I do have a lot of love for them. So having that animal interaction while you're on a ship just made it so special. It was definitely my favorite port to get off on because I was like, animal time. I get to love on a furry little sweet thing. So I really enjoyed that, and we do go back to Kotor on my next contract, so that is definitely something that I am super excited for. I almost forgot to mention, there is a beautiful hike in Kotor. If you walk into the old city and you keep walking straight to the back, a little bit to the right, you'll find some stairs. And these stairs go all the way up and up and up and up and up. And you can get a beautiful view of Kotor if you keep going up. It is a couple of euros to get into. There's a little like stop station where you pay and you can go up. I think my friend Danilo and I did it in maybe 20-30 minutes. We are both athletes, we're both dancers, so I don't know if that makes the time go a little bit quicker for us or if that's just the average time that it does. I will say there were a couple of points where I was breathing pretty heavy, but I was like, okay, we're gonna push through, we're gonna do it. I would highly recommend, if you are an active person and you love physical exercise and beautiful views and hiking in general, this was probably the favorite hike that I did this whole contract. And I do want to do it again. It was very beautiful. It was a bit steep. There were bits of it that were slippery because there were stairs the majority of the way going up. But once you get to the top, those views were just wow. I just wanted to sit there and look all day. I was a little nervous sitting over the ledge of some of the places, just taking it all in. But if you're not scared of heights, no problem for you. So I think with that, the cats and the hike, a little bit of shopping, I think we can move on to the next one. Okay, so the next port that we were in was Corfu, Greece. I do have to say, I didn't get off of this port a ton. It was usually a show day for us, so I did get off once when my parents were coming to visit. I spent the day with them in Corfu, and then another time that I was in Corfu, I did an excursion through the ship. So I'll just get into a little bit of those. From the ship, you have to walk all the way to this little center. It's like 5-7 minute walk to get there. Once you're there, you can take a taxi or a bus or whatever to get into the main city of Corfu. When my parents were there, we decided to walk. It was about 40 minutes and it was raining that day, so it wasn't the worst thing in the world, but because it was raining, I think I'm a little bit like, oh, I don't know if I would do that again. Corfu was really beautiful. The old town was really beautiful as well. Again, tons to eat. I think I got a Greek salad with my parents, and we kind of just walked around and looked at all the shops. There's a ton of touristy things to do there. There is a new and an old fortress that were really cool to see. I'm not too sure on the history of Corfu, but looking at the structures was very, very beautiful. I'll insert some pictures here as well of some of what there is to see. I do wish that I had more to say about it, but again, being a show day and being that far away from the actual port itself, I didn't really feel like it was worth it every time to get off. The excursion that I did was very, very cool. We took a bus over to some beaches and some overlooks. They were absolutely stunning to see. Then we stopped at a little restaurant and a church and a distillery as well, which was very, very cool. I enjoyed actually all of that trip. I think my favorite part was mostly talking to the head of the tourism, the woman who was kind of giving the history lesson of Corfu and the places that we were going to. It was really, really fun to hear her talk about Corfu and the places that she's been to and kind of what brought her to this. I think that that was actually the most memorable part of my experience in Corfu. Next on my list is Athens, Greece. This was one of my favorite ports to go to. There is so much to do over there. If you want beaches, there's beaches. If you want shopping, there's tons of shopping. From the port, you can either go into Piraeus, which is the city that you're immediately into, or you can take a bus, a train, or a taxi, or an Uber into Athens itself. So we went into Athens a couple of times. The first time I took a taxi, the second time I took a bus. I will say the bus is a whole lot, or not a bus. I didn't take a bus. I took the train. The train is a whole lot more affordable. So I just walked out of the port, took a quick little Uber. It was only a couple of euros to the train station. It was like 2 or 3 euros for a bus ticket, a train ticket. I keep mixing them up. And then you take the train and you can get off in the main city of Athens. There you can go to the Acropolis, which we went to. It was amazing. Seeing all of that old history and the old monuments, I was in awe. I think to be there is very, very different from seeing photos of it. I'm also a little bit of a Greek mythology nerd, so seeing all of the temples that were dedicated to some of the gods and goddesses and seeing the statues and everything, it just, I felt very like, I felt like a little kid again. It was really, really fun to see. There is a ton of shopping in Athens. There's a ton to eat. One of my favorite places that I actually went to in Athens was called Attic Urban Rooftop. It was a beautiful, beautiful rooftop bar. You could definitely get food. We didn't even drink that day. I think I got a cappuccino and like a little breakfast dish. But it has a stunning view of the Acropolis and the city below. There was also a cute little swing set where we took photos. I will put a picture here, just so that you guys can see what that looked like. I would highly recommend going there. There was another rooftop bar that I found that I never ended up going to called A for Athens. It was just right across the street, so it had the same view, was just a little bit more upscale from what I could see. So shopping, Acropolis, food, lots and lots to do over there in Athens. Another thing about Athens is that it is quite busy. It's definitely a metropolis. I would kind of compare it to like New York City a little bit. It's not as nearly industrial. Obviously, it's got all of the European culture and um, the setup of a European city, but the amount of people that were walking through the different areas, I would definitely say was similar. But actually, in Athens, my favorite place to be was in Piraeus. I much preferred Piraeus. I would walk from the port into the city. It maybe took 20 minutes total to get from where I wanted to be to where I was going. You can take an Uber. It's super cheap. It's like €8. It's not super expensive at all. I love to walk, so I would often do that. There's a ton of shopping there. There's a massive grocery store where we would always stock up on our groceries. I would always get a gyro. There was a street souvlaki and another place that I can't remember the name of, but I actually think I ended up going there more than I ever went to street souvlaki. There was a bunch of really good cafes. I'd always stop into Zara and to Zenny's and Oisho. Were some of my favorite shops. I didn't always buy stuff, but it is fun to look. And then another thing in Athens or Piraeus that I would always do was I would go get a massage. So there was a massage place called Massage for You Piraeus. It was $20 or €20 for a sports massage for an hour. The best massages I've ever gotten. Holy cow. It was never a show day for us, so it was always really nice when your muscles are sore and you want like a little bit of a rehab, you want to relax, to just go get your muscles worked out. I loved it. So I will say Piraeus was usually a bit of like a rest and recoup day. I did do some exploring, of course, but I really loved Athens and Piraeus. There was no shortage of things to do. You could find something every single time you were there that was new if you wanted to. Next, I will talk about Santorini. So in my first video, I mentioned that I only got off in that port twice. I'll get a little bit into that. It was usually a show day for us. So we would have tech run in the morning, and then that kind of big break that you have in between a tech run and a show for Santorini doesn't really work. You either have to, it's a tender port, so you get off and you take a tender over to this little dock and you're dropped off at the bottom of the mountain. You are here, Santorini is up here. So there was either a trolley that you could take all the way up to the top, or there were stairs with donkeys that you could take. You could either walk or take a donkey. I would not take a donkey. That's all they do all day. It's up steep stairs. It's slippery for us. I can't imagine what it's like for them. I don't know if they're treated well. I think the heartbleed in me doesn't feel like it's okay. But it's super, super popular. A lot of people do it, so to each their own. I walked up the stairs the first time that we were in Greece. It took 25 to 30 minutes. I did have to stop for about 5 minutes to take a breath. I was in a super cute outfit, but I was drenched in sweat. Oh my gosh, that was probably the hardest walk I've ever done in my life. It got really steep. It kind of smelled like donkey stuff. It wasn't the worst, but I personally would avoid it as much at all costs. And the thing about the trolleys is that there are only 2 sets that go at a time. You can only fit 6 people in a trolley at a time. And there are, I think, only 6 trolleys. So really only 36 people are going up at a time and down and up and down. If you get off super early in the morning, there's no line, there's no wait. It was so easy. I took it the second time, max wait. I think we were there for 5 minutes before we got in the trolley. We got off right when the ship opened up to get off. But when you get off later, that line starts to back because it's not just one ship in port. Sometimes it's 4 ships in port. And when there's 4,000 guests on each ship and you're getting off 70 to 200 guests at a time off of each tender port, that line gets so long. I think the first time that we got off, it was around noon. The line was a 2-hour wait. So that's why we ended up walking up. If you're gonna want to take the trolley, I suggest getting first thing off on the ship in the morning and then going about your day. So the first time I got off in Santorini, we took a taxi over to Oya. You get dropped off you are in Fira when you get up to the top of the mountain. There is a ton to do there. I just really wanted to see Oya because that's where all of the blue dome buildings are. We just kind of explored the city the whole day. It was very, very beautiful. There are less blue dome buildings than you think there are. I was shocked to find this out, but we did find a restaurant called, I think it was like the Red Bicycle or something. It was super affordable compared to a lot of the restaurants, and it had a stunning, stunning view. So again, I'll try to insert pictures if I can find them. It was a little bit more expensive than what I'm used to, but compared to the prices at a lot of the other restaurants where you're paying like $50 for an entree, I think this one was definitely more worth it. It was great food. We got a couple of drinks as well, so I really enjoyed that. And if I do go back to Oya, that would definitely be somewhere on my list to go again. There was a ton of tourist stuff, so we pretty much just walked around, took pictures, of course, because that's what you do in Greece. And then we took a taxi back into Fira and took the trolley back down the mountain. The second time I went with one of my friends, Austin. We had kind of set out that day to find an ATV and drive all over Santorini, just seeing what we could find. There were a couple of places on my list that I wanted to see there, so I just put it in my GPS. We found an ATV rental shop. It was, I think, 50 euros for a whole day. You did have to pay for and fill up your gas, but between two people, that's only 25 euros, and that's cheaper than a taxi over to one of the cities that you go to. So I definitely would say that it is worth the money. We drove to the Red Beach, the Black Sand Beach, a couple of other places. We stopped in this like really beautiful area that had this bell tower that was apparently iconic to Santorini. We found a little cafe, got some coffees, a little bite to eat. We drove through a couple of the little towns along Santorini, passed by some wineries. It was absolutely my favorite day in Santorini, even though I only went twice. It's one of my favorite memories from my whole contract. I had so much fun. So if you are in Santorini and you trust yourself to drive an ATV, I would definitely recommend to do that. I have such fond memories from that day. So next we'll get into Mykonos. Another tender port. We did have a lot of tender ports this contract. I think there is one spot where you can port in Mykonos, but for the most part we were tendered. So we would get dropped off and then take a ferry over into the main city of Mykonos. We found a cafe that we really liked, and then we found a gyro place that we would always go to called Saki's. It is a little bit more expensive than Athens, but I will say it was for sure worth it. They were some of the best gyros that I ever had. It was my favorite thing to do in Mykonos, was just to go and grab a gyro. We would always walk around the little shops. There is tons and tons of shopping to do. There are also beaches. Mykonos was usually a show day for us, so we didn't really have that much time to go and explore. I did stumble upon the windmills once. I didn't take any pictures just because I was lost and I was stressed out because I was worried that I wouldn't get back to the ship in time. But my next contract, if we aren't in Mykonos on a show day, then I will do tons and tons of exploring. I think there are some pool clubs over there that are super popular. That's not really my vibe, but I know that that is what Mykonos is popular for. We always got gelato. We'd always just go into the little boutiques and shops. They were very, very beautiful, tons of beautiful clothes. Mykonos is a very good place to spend all of your money if you let it. Yeah, for me, pretty much euros and coffee was was my Mykonos day. We did run into the pelican a couple of times. I can't remember his name, but I'll put a photo here. Basically, I think there's one pelican. He's a pink pelican on the island, and the lore is that he is the same pelican and he brings the island good luck. I don't think he's the same pelican, but he does have a name. I'll find it and I will put it here, just so if you're ever in Mykonos and you stumble upon him, that's a fun little tidbit of information to have. Um, I had a friend on another ship who docked with us in Mykonos, so a lot of times we would meet up with him to go for lunch and just have chit chats, catch up. We met on my first contract, so my friends who were all on my first contract, some with me and then him, we would all meet up for lunch, and that's such a fun thing about cruising is that when you run into people that you know that you wouldn't expect to run into, you can see them anywhere in the ports that you go to, which is really fun because you have friends for life. Right, so I think I covered Mykonos as best as I could. I think the last port is Argostoli, which is in Greece. This was also one of my favorite ports. It was, again, a sleepy little like fisherman-y town. When you got right off of the ship, a lot of times you could see sea turtles. They come to feed, I think, between 10 and 12 in the morning. So if you were lucky, you'd see sea turtles right along the sea line, which was really, really fun to see. There is, in the actual town itself, there is a lot of really good restaurants. One of my favorites was Cafe Vino, and then the other one was Captain's Table. Those were two of my favorite restaurants to go to, and then there was a really good gelato place where you could get a waffle cup, and then they fill it with gelato and would put like a chocolate sauce or a pistachio or whatever you wanted on it. It was really, really yummy. Another thing that we did in Argostoli that was one of my favorite days was we rented a boat. So we had our boat, a boat driver, and then they took us over to 3 beaches that you could only get to by like boat access. So White Rocks Beach, oh my gosh, one of the most beautiful, beautiful beaches I've ever been to in my life. The water was so blue and so clear. You could see to the bottom of it from like probably 20 feet down. The beach itself, it was lined with white rocks, and then the sand was so white. It was absolutely beautiful. I do wish we spent a little bit more time there, but since it was our first, we wanted to make sure that we had time to get to the other beaches. I cannot remember the name of the second beach. We just had fun there. I think there was like 8 to 10 of us, and we were just jumping off the side of the boat, having a good swim, taking some photos, just really enjoying our time there. And then the last place that we went to was the Red Sand Beach. We swam from the boat to the shore and we took tons and tons of photos on the beach. It looked really, really beautiful. I'll insert a couple here of what we took. But it was just an amazing day. We were with the cast and some of the ice cast. We all just had so much fun being together, having some good food, a couple of drinks, just being in the sun and really bonding as a cast. So I think that's what made it special. But it was really, really fun to do. So if you are in a place where you're with a group of friends or you're with your family, I would definitely recommend looking at renting a boat. You can see things that you wouldn't be able to see if you were just on land, and it's such a fun day to be out on a boat. It is kind of funny to say though that you go from being on a ship to just going onto a boat. Like I don't know, I love being on the water. It's one of my favorite things. That was definitely one of my top days on this contract. So I think that concludes the end of this video. If you guys have any questions for me, again, leave a little comment down below. You can shoot me a DM on Instagram. It's at Maddie Sharer. I am happy to answer whatever. I am traveling over to California today, so I'll be pretty busy for a week, but I am hoping to get this video up kind of soon. And then when I come home, I think I'm gonna go ahead and start filming a pack with me video. just so that I can give you guys a little bit more insight on what I bring for rehearsals and then what I choose to bring for the ship. And I can also talk about maybe what I usually buy over in my port when I first sign on the ship, so my room is a little bit more comfortable for me. All right, thank you guys so much for watching. I had fun doing this. I hope you guys have fun watching it. I look forward to you in the next one. Bye.